Today we have with us Mayur Katariya, an Indian born meditation teacher, author, and founder of the Nondual Midlife Reset, the Calm Strength Method. Drawing on decades of experience in meditation, he now helps Indian migrant men navigate the emotional and psychological challenges of midlife through a culturally relevant approach to mental well being. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks
To
so much.
begin, we would we would love to learn a little more about you and your journey. Before we talk about the calm strength method, I would love to start with your story. Could you tell us a little about yourself and your journey from India to where you are today?
Thanks, Bhavna. Thanks for having me on your show. First of all, I'm really looking forward to dive deep into this very important topic with you. So I came here probably around 24, 25 years ago as a student, like many Indian migrants do. And then I immediately fell in love with the place, the culture, people, and I was an engineer. I was doing IT. But I was really interested in learning and working with people. So I changed my field and I started working in university administration. And then I progressed from there to middle management. And along the way, I also completed my first arts degree, so to speak, after all the science degrees, which is Masters of Counseling, which sort of allowed me to work with people in a ethical psychotherapy structure way. So whenever I was teaching yoga or meditation, I always find that people open up and people open up about their problems, etc. And I was never sort of sure as to how do I, um, in a modern way, in an ethical, structural way, support people. So the program, the Masters of Counseling helped a lot, and here I am. So I've been teaching lots of meditation programs, etc., online and face to face. Um, but I realized that working one on one with individual is the best way to make the deepest impact, and it's a long lasting impact. And I feel in our culture currently, we have access to all the information in the world, as you know. Everything is on our fingertips. So we have a lot of information, but we don't have a wise friend or guide who can sit with us and go on a journey, which is what it takes to change something as opposed to access to information versus um, implementing it in your life in a structural way, in a way that is always unique to you. So that is where my passion is, working with one-on-one.
Looking back, what first drew you to meditation and non-dual philosophy? Was there like any particular moment or experience that changed your perspective?
It's interesting you ask. In growing up in India, see, we are always sort of surrounded by spirituality and learning to and finding your truth and reality is sort of ingrained in our culture. I don't know, maybe I was built like that, but I think it's true for everyone. We know culturally we put that quest very high on pedestal, isn't it? So. So I had that, like most other Indian people. But I feel when I lost my election in student union in second year of engineering, that was a big jolt to my system. And then I was a very extrovert sort of person, but I became more introvert. And that's when I found yoga, meditation, or refound yoga and meditation. I was doing yoga meditation when I was a child. Um, but I found that when I came across non-duality, that's where really things made sense to me. So all along the way, I was almost 20 years into my meditation, vipassana, mindfulness practice, but non-duality, Advaitavad, made it all fall in place for me. So then I started teaching Advaita Vedanta, and I have 10-step course on it, which allows people like myself who are on the pathway for a long time, but in a structural way, it allows us to go deep into our journey and make sense of the world and self. So non-duality is I came across after 15, 20 years of searching and seeking. And I wish I had come to it 10 years earlier. But every journey is an individual journey, and we come to it when the time is right, I believe. So yeah, that was my journey about it.
Like you've mentioned, you've spent years teaching meditation. How has your own understanding of peace and happiness evolved over that time?
That's very good question. It is very hard to summarize in few words, but I would say you start often with your physical level of when you're young, you were getting into yoga, etc. So you learn the teaching from your physical reality, so to speak. So say on layer one, and then it becomes much more deeper and it becomes sort of mental reality. So that probably is a second structure and a second level. And then it becomes deeper than that, where it goes right into the core of your being. So I felt that my progress was also like that. It was important to go through those stages as we progress, and I found, and I think that is a better way to put it. And you can only sort of make sense of it after 10, 15 years when you look back on your journey. Um, it is not that when you are on your initial stages of your exploration, so when I said physical side of things, it is not that your soul or your awareness was not present there, but the way you learn is more tactile, it's more rooted on physicality of the world. But then it becomes slowly deeper and deeper and deeper. That was my journey, but your journey could be different, and every journey is different.
Living away from India often changes the way people relate to their roots, right? Has your experience as an Indian living abroad shaped your work in any way?
It has to be like that because when you change your whole environment, as we do when we uproot ourselves from Mother India to Mother Australia, um, you are surrounded by new environment, new land, new people, and it bound to have effect on your journey. So yes, it affected me too. Um, and I must say it was a very positive effect on me because the culture that we have here in Australia, people that we have, was very accepting, open, um, also very fair, very systematic, and I felt that it allowed me to explore things that I really wanted to explore. I always wanted to explore more about spirituality, more about consciousness studies, etc. So I think it gave me the environment, people, friend, teachers that made it possible for me. So in a way, I feel that I was almost destined to come here. It was like a destiny for me to come here to progress my pathway. It did feel like that, and it does feel like that still.
That's beautiful. What was the moment when you realized that this program needs to exist?
So I have been working with a lot of students online, and I feel that they interact with my courses and they get, and I always get very high rating on feedback. But there is no way for me to work with them one-on-one in a deeper way. But then when I worked with three or four of my students like that, I felt that the impact that I had was so deep that it can never be replaced by a online course that you do on your own, and you may type some questions and you may get some answers. Those sort of mediums are not really, they're good to a level, right? They're better than nothing. But the deeper um, transformation often happens when you work with people one on one. So that's when I found that when I worked with those first three students, I realized that this is the way to go. Which is also true, as you know, from our ancient way of working with people, is that it's often face to face. It's often um, uh, years of dialogues, years of learning, scaffolding. Now, of course, we don't have to work for years here. Even 3 months of structured program is good enough to make changes that are just life changing and long lasting.
Uh, you choose to focus specifically on Indian migrant men in midlife. Why this community and why now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, it's not that I can't work with other people, but I feel Indian migrant man is a very a specific cohort of people who would understand my learnings, my teaching because of the cultural similarity, but are also in the most need of help, I feel. So often there is a lot of silent pressure on them. Having a successful life in Australia is not sufficient for them, or wherever, UK or Canada or America. It's not sufficient for them. So they have to be successful for their not just immediate family, but also family back home in India. They have to be fulfilling the cultural values that is imposed on them, whether they know it or not. So there are so many pressures on them, and I feel this cohort access the help list, which is also confirmed by research. So 90 only like 3 or 4% of Indian men who are struggling with well-being related issues, mental or physical, not so much physical, but mainly mental, are accessing any help because they feel even when they access the help, they feel that their context is so not well understood by the therapists who are based here. So often people do not understand the implication of racism, the implication of being uprooted from your motherland, the diverse pressure that an Indian man has versus any other cohort. So I feel that the need is the most with this cohort I felt, and because the men that I worked with, those three first students that I talked about, were all from Indian background. And I felt that that is telling sign that they are also much more open to the pathways that I was talking about, the modalities that I was talking about. So I felt, no, this is the cohort that I'm going to work with. And of course, along the way, I have met with people from different cultures and of course different gender, and I would always work with anyone who needs my help. But I felt that this specific program that I have prepared is mainly for Indian migrant men who are successful from the worldly ways of measuring, but are struggling with the silent pressure that they have, and they feel that this pressure is just normal part of being man. Um, but when they open up, when they realize that how much they're carrying without without ever asking for help, without even themselves understanding that there is a point that comes in our life where we all need a friend who that we could confide into, and who can help you in a systematic way, let alone just listen to you. And a lot of our Indian friends, as you know, when they come here, they have left their support structure. They have left those deep friendship that they have built in the first 20-25 years. They have left them. So often they are without any deep friendship. Um, yeah. That's where it's a long-winded answer, but I feel that I understand this cohort the most, and I feel I can make a lot of deep impact in their lives.
So, adding on to this, what are some of the struggles you've seen Indian men carry quietly that inspired you to actually create this program? Could you list a few?
Yeah, I can talk about just two examples of the people that I worked with, and I'll of course change their name for confidentiality purpose. But let's say the first person, Amit, when he came to me, he said, "I actually don't feel any joy. I'm so successful. I have everything I need, but I just don't have joy in things, the things that will." used to make me happy, the song that used to make me happy is not that exciting anymore. The films don't make me happy, etc., etc. And so when we dive deep into his set of challenges, we figure out that okay, this may be the root cause, and then we worked on those, and within 2 3 months time, Amit became like 20 years ago how he was. Um, he everything was new, alive, and more exciting for him. And so that is, perhaps you could say, oh, that's a low level of problems, but it is not. Often problems start like that, and then they grow into something big, unmanageable within 1 month, within 5 months, within 1 year, who knows? So that's one example I'd like to talk about. But then other example was I was working with this man, which I, of course, will change the name. Let's call him Raj. Raj was also very successful businessman here in Australia, and he was struggling with marital problem. He was struggling with the problems in back home in India, and he also had a lot of relationship issues with his own children. So you could say, oh, that is a lot of problem. There's one problem versus three, four, five, six problems. So so I feel that when we work with people, there is we all have problems continuum. We may think that we are on one, or we may be on 10. So list can go on forever. But often I think I would say it is the sense of not belonging into your new place. It is the sense of just having this masculinity ingrained in our culture, where we feel that a man has to always protect and provide and never ask for any question. And asking for question is lack of strength. So I think these are the underlying issues that I see our friends have here. Um, but other than that, there could be also layers of minor or major mental health issues. There could be some physical health issue that could trigger mental health issues. There may be a sense of isolation. There may be also in 30s and 40s. Usually you have experienced everything, and life still doesn't make sense to you. And so you may have everything, and you would have thought that when I would have everything, I would also have happiness. And so some of my clients are mainly just looking for that happiness that they were promised, or they had promised themselves that when I be 40 years old and when I have everything, I'd be happy. And the happiness is always eluding them. So, Bhavana, uh, the problem could be presented to you in any sort of shape or form. But when you work with somebody in a methodological way, you will always be able to figure it out, rather than struggling on your own and trying to figure it out by looking up some YouTube clip or Instagram reel. Is only going to help you so much, and is at the best it's just going to give you an information, which is good, but often you don't know if that information is right for me, or whether to implement that strategy is better for me right now or not. See, that's where the way I work with people comes in. It is more important because it is structured, it is individualistic, so it is not a cookie cutter approach that everybody starts with this, then in 3 weeks everybody moves on to that. Um so so yeah.
That's beautiful. Now, if someone were joining the Calm Strength Method program for the first time,
Yeah.
what kind of journey do you think they could expect?
So I guess it again really depends on where they are in their life. But I would say some of the things that they could expect from this program is the full reset of your nervous system. So your nervous system actually carries lot of conditioning from the silent pressures that we all feel, your nervous system changes to to, to a state where it is not conducive to your happiness. So reset of nervous system is often included in my program, depending on your needs, of course. And then another word I would use is called metacognition. So the knowing about the nature of the problem from in a deeper way. It's a second understanding that I always strive to work with my clients. And then third is a new identity. So identity that is deeper than just superficial identity, and that is what I mean by non-dual identity. So those three are the cornerstones of my pathway. Uh, Nervous system reset, metacognition, and new identity.
Your work combines non-dual philosophy with practical well-being, right? How do you make these teachings accessible to someone who has never meditated before?
So a lot of my, not a lot of my clients, but uh, s- at least 25% of my clients or students have not meditated before. So meditation can come in many packages. It doesn't have to be a formal close your eyes type meditation. It can be in a form of active meditation. It can be in a form of thought experiments. It can be in the form of yoga. It can be in the form of even vagus nerve activation processes. So in first or second session, I would often develop enough insight into which meditation technique will speak to you deeply. And you would also find that by the end of our 12-week program, people are often more open and more able to even do formal meditation if they wish to. But as you know, as you would have heard from your upbringing, that meditation is not just one package. It's not just one kind of formal practice. So depending on your life circumstances, your proclivity, I could suggest a technique that would work for you.
So, for someone like yourself who's really so experienced, many people think that meditation is simply about sitting quietly, right? So, what do
Mhm.
you wish people could understand more about it?
So first, the word meditation is just it has sort of created its own problem. Like the word meditation is it just creates this mental imagery of people sitting quietly under a tree sort of thing. Whereas if we talk about calming body or calming your nervous system, then that's a different kind of techniques as opposed to understanding the reality of life or reality of ourself. That is a different modality. Um, and so, so coming back to your question, what would I like people to understand is that I think I would like people to understand the nature of their own self and how the self that we are looking for often in the search of soul or atma or self in the search of truth, how that truth is always present, even in the most mundane moment. Like here, right now, you're talking to me, and if you think that your truth is not here, that is completely wrong, right? Your truth is something that is never, ever apart from you. So even in this very mundane experience, if you can tap into that, that would be my wish. My wish would be for you to know your truest identity. But of course, that journey takes time. It takes some understanding, which yeah, which is not which is not very hard. It's actually one of the easiest thing to do once you get it. Yeah.
Uh, Also, you know how conversations about mental health have increasingly become more common these days? But
Mm.
also, many Indian men, particularly, they still hesitate to seek support. Why do you think that is the case?
It is because they are taught that asking for help. I think one of the client of mine mentioned it very well. She said, "Mangne se marna bhala." So asking for help is as bad as dying. And that was a woman who was telling me, let alone a man. As you know, in our culture, man is supposed to be the strongest person in the family. And so there's so many stereotypical messages that we have given to our men that they feel that it is not masculine enough to ask for help. Only those people who are wrong or are mad go for therapy. Um, and they wait until they are completely broken to go to therapy, which is one of the worst thing we could do. Whereas those men who are ready to even explore things would find that in whatever stages of our life, even if you think you're very happy, there is something that you could do that would help to set you up in a right direction. It just takes um, some humility, some introspection, and some space that you need in your life to create uh, this space for well-being for yourself, which often our men are not afforded. They are always very busy studying while they are under, say, 25, and then after 25, they are very busy providing. So there is very little time for them, for themselves. And if ever they ask for questions or seek for support, then our culture doesn't do any good. It sort of gives them this implicit message is that if you ask for help, it means you're weak. So so these are the standard answers, but they are so true. And they were true 20 years ago, and I must say they are still true. We may have more awareness about it, but that awareness hasn't really resulted into action. So again, it's like we have information. Oh, men don't go and ask for therapy. We have that information for 20 years now. But what have we done about it? See, it's access to information is not equivalent to taking steps and addressing those problems.
You're absolutely correct. Have you noticed the shift in how the Indian diaspora is approaching emotional well being compared to, let's say, a decade ago? Do you think there's any shift or any change now?
Um, I think they feel that they have access to information. That's why they know it, which is even worse than not having information. So often they feel that, oh, I know it all, or I know, or what is it going to do for me? So there is this access of information which has become like what you call poison chalice. It's like it is good to have that information, but it is also giving them this subconscious messaging that, oh, I know it all, or it's probably not going to work for me, etc. Um, so I think too much information is not very good right now. And then, for example, um, social media companies, they are spending billions of dollars to make you addicted to dopamine hits, right? So they want you hooked. And the issue that it is created, which is what we are living right now, um, is that people think that they know everything, and their problem is, so they're not inclined to do much more about their problem, let alone do an introspection. So I don't think that our diaspora has changed. If anything, it has actually gone worse. Worse for two reasons. One, what I just mentioned, as to we have information and we think that because we have information we know it all, but that's not true. And secondly, the world that we live in right now is true in where you live, Bhavna, but it's also true where we live. The pressure about job, family security, and well-being is actually increasing to a very unhealthy level everywhere, and even worse in Western country, I might say. Um, so actually situation is worsening. It's not increase, it's not improving from the well-being perspective. For the well-being perspective of the man in a group that I'm talking about between 30 to 50.
Also, adding on to that, could you please emphasize a little bit more on what role do family expectations, cultural identity, and migration play in shaping mental well being?
It actually is it's first of all, there isn't a lot of research on it. Okay, migrant man is not a very sexy research topic. So there is a lot of research done in Western context for the men who born here or have been living here or have the similar cultural identity like and all Anglo-Saxon men. Whereas the research on Asian men in say UK or Western countries is very limited. But from whatever research that has happened, we know that the sense of loss of identity it plays a big role. Sense of loneliness and not people not knowing me or my culture, my context is also very high on the presenting problems, and the racism. And the racism is also very interesting. Racism is not always overt racism, but it is in the form of microaggression that even people who are experiencing are not really aware that that is what is taking place in me. But those microaggressions, when they happen in 100 or 200, in 3, 400 units, let's say, uh, over, say, 10 years' time, it creates a conditioning in your mind. Um, it creates an automatic pathway in your neural network through which you now look at the world, and so it is very layered for migrant men, and and to make matter worse, they don't have and they are hardly ever able to replace the network, the support network that they left behind. So very few men are lucky here who has recreated that support network. They have lost friendship. They often their parents and siblings are back in home. So the sense of loneliness is lifelong. Is not going to be replaced in most cases. Yeah. So these are just some of the reasons as to why our migrant men are struggling.
Have there been any stories from participants that particularly stayed with you or reaffirmed why this work matters?
Yes, it has. In fact, all the men that I have worked with have, first of all, accepted the situation that we are in and have developed deeper insight about it, which is the first step of solving any problem, is to accepting and really understanding the context of the problem that we are dealing with. And that has freed them, right? That had made them not just develop insight about the issue, but also sort of lifted the weight as to why it wasn't feeling right for me. Why, so that's second. And then they were able to recreate new identity, which is way better than anything that they were looking for. So knowing the problem, addressing the problem, having a newer, better, upgraded identity of yourself is the is its lifelong achievement that doesn't stay. If anything, it doesn't change. If anything, it improves with time. So all the clients that I have worked with have found that um, life is much more blissful, much more happy, um, and and uh, and they are unshakable. That's what I call it. They have this calm strength about themselves, and I feel um, we will only know in 20, 30 years time if those men um, have changed or not. But I feel that even for next 20, 30, 40 years time, if they remain on the path, if I would feel that even a bigger problem or the biggest problem of their life will not be able to shake them. So yeah, so I have had privilege to work with those clients whose life I hope um, um, it is going to continue to be as happy as it can be, as it should be.
While your program was designed for Indian migrant men over 40, do
Hmm.
you think its ideas can benefit younger adults, women, or even people outside the Indian community?
100% it can. It can. Um, and it has. I have worked with people who are younger, around even 25 years old people, and even older, including 65 plus men, and women. So yes, there's those pathways, those modalities work for everyone. But the program that I have created, which is what we are talking about, is specifically for Indian men because I feel that this cohort hasn't had enough focus on their specific problems. But that is not to say that I that the program doesn't work for everyone. It does, and I'd be happy to work with anyone and everyone.
What impact do you hope this program will have on the Indian diaspora over the next few years?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I would have time to work with everyone on one-on-one, but I'm really hoping that I could work with 100 people. Let's say next 3 years, um, because this is a deep work, right? So and working one-on-one is the best pathway I feel is to work with. But if I have all the resources and time and people who are trained up, and let's say if we can work with 1,000 people like that, I feel that would have a lot of flow-on effect. So 1,000 happy units.
So, adding on to it, is this program designed only for people in Australia?
No, of course not, Bhavna. I could work with anyone who has internet access. And I could work with anyone who's happy to meet me within, if they're living in 50-kilometer radius, we can meet. But we don't have to meet. I think in today's world, people prefer online working, and online work is equally impactful. Um, so yeah, I can work with anyone, everyone. If people are in UK or Europe or Canada, USA, then we'll have to work out the time zone because time zones all over the shop, but we can easily work out the time that suits them.
If there is one thing you could change about how Indian communities talk about mental well being, what could it be?
Oh, there I would change a lot of things, but I guess I wish it is not. Even mental health has become a taboo. I think mental health used to be a really good term 10 years ago. But right now, mental health is as full of taboo and preconceived notion. Um, Either it is watered down, like somebody having a temporary temporary issue is also called mental health, and somebody having a full-on psychosis is also called mental health. So I think the understanding of the word is very, very shallow, and but I'm glad that people are talking about it, and we do need a word about it, and I think mental health still does it, but I feel that there is increasingly more and more taboo around it too. um, um, and I think it is not a clear term. I feel we need to be a bit more better with that tag. So yeah.
Finally, for someone who may be feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or simply looking for more peace in their life, what message would you like to leave with them?
I would say that peace and happiness is in your nature. You are peace and happiness beyond the clouds of thoughts and and clouds of doubts. And once you know your true nature, which is peace and happiness, you can never unsee it. And so there is always um, hope that the peace and happiness which is seemingly eluding you is never far from you.
So before we conclude, I have another question for you. So if there are people who are interested in your program, how could they contact you?
Thanks,
Or how
Bhavna.
could they enroll for it?
Yeah, thanks, Bhavna. So for your listeners, what I have done is I have around 10 discovery call that I have made available in this month. So if you go on my website, which is in your bio or description, you can set up a discovery call with me. Discovery call is one-on-one conversation with me where we can talk about what are your needs, what are your timelines, and what we can achieve. And once we have the discovery call, you would understand as to how the program works and what are the benefits for it for your own self. So I think discovery call is a better way to go about it. Um, and this discovery call is for those people who are not just wanting a conversation with me, but who are really keen to make lasting changes in their life. So yeah, please.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Bhavna.